What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the next episode of the Frankenstein VG30 build. So we've got both of our engines back up here front and center. So what I think we may have decided here, I may still open it and check, but since all of these rod journals look so good, we're obviously going to measure them, make sure they're within spec on an X and Y axis. And we may just leave it like this without switching it to the other block. The only reason is because some of the other block has got a little bit of rust from the from sitting with all the stupid humidity that we've gotten. Haven't decided 100% yet, but we'll definitely check out the bores before we say for sure. But so far everything's looking good, feels good. Pretty much what we're going to do next, getting all of these tightened down to the torque spec, which I've got my manual over here to check out, and then we will measure with our bore gauge up here, zero that out, and then measure with our micrometer here. This thing's not the best at focusing, but so far we've been within spec on each connecting rod side on the large end without a bearing. Now we're on to number 5, but take your bore gauge, place it in here, and all you're going to do is get the lowest point throughout your rod bearing. And at the same time, you can see right here is the 0. You're trying to get your lowest spot. You'll rotate the outside of your bore gauge up to where your highest spot, or lowest, I guess you could say, is 0. I only said high because you see it moving above the 0. So I need to adjust it slightly. What we'll do here now is we'll use our micrometer. We got a 2 to 3 inch. And all you do is, as you adjust your micrometer here, you watch your bore gauge as it goes back to 0 as you move it, lock it, and that'll be your reading. Alright, now you lock it. I already know this is not read, at least on the camera end, but here, and how can you focus this thing? It's super hard to read, but we're a little bit past 11, which there's 25 notches all the way around this, and that's 25 thousandths. So there's 4 sets of 25 thousandths per 10 thousandths. I believe that's the right number, but we're right above 11. So you add 11, 75, since we're past the 3rd mark, and there's 4 in the whole segment. That means we're at 2.086, and that will be our measurement, which the spec is 2.0866 to 2.0871. Once again, right here, 2.0866 to 2.871. Sorry, 2.0871. So once again, we're within spec here. So we're going to flip it. We're going to measure our y-axis. Now here again, it's the same thing or concept. You just do it from the other angle. This clip is went on too long. Pretty much all we are going to do is do the same thing for the last one. Again, these are measured without the bearings inside. So I've got it set up on the max clearance. And what I did, set it up where I can eyeball it, make sure that the anvils on both sides will be clearing, and slowly just twist it around. As you see, it's on both sides, and I can spin it around. So that tells me, because you don't want it too tight, obviously you don't want to scratch and gouge your journals, but we're all in spec, we're good there. I don't really know how I'm supposed to measure A to B. Yeah, so you got now A to B's taper, out around is X to Y, as you can see down here, X, Y, A, B. So that's what I've decided. I've just kind of cleaned up the journals, got all like the old oil off with a microfiber cloth, shined them up a little bit, at least what I can get to. It's kind of hard to get to the other side, but I'll make something happen. I'll cut like a strip of cloth to fish through there. Now we're going to look for some oil so we can cover this up and get it lubricated, so that way we have no chance of rust coming here, and because we got a little bit of rain coming in this evening. But just want to make sure everything is all fine and dandy. Sorry it's been a couple days, but we're back. So the next plan of attack today, yeah, I tilted that down so it's not annihilating my view, which I obviously will have to do with that one too, but we're in luck. So through reading the service manual and a few other things, I seen that, like, I know about the grades and stuff for all the factory things. I know that now that factory certain pistons are for, like, have certain grades for the block, and the block tells you. Hopefully you can see it. GoPro likes to not show things. Right there, there's a 2. There's a 2 on each cylinder. And you know, that's fantastic, because there's a 2 there, there's a 2 there, and there is on all of them. So the pistons that we've already selected, we select them because they look the best, and it just turns out that they happen to be the exact grade that we're going to need. So it's kind of perfect. However, upon seeing some specs, as far as our pistons and rods and stuff, this one, piston 2 and 4 are out of spec. Which I don't understand how, I guess. How does it get smaller than it was? Like, I don't understand how this hole can get smaller over time. Like, you get what I'm saying? Like, if it's moving and it's rotating and working against a crank, and say if there was to be wear, would it not make it larger? I mean, I get that the bearing's there to prevent that from happening. Some of them had some wear, but I would think, if anything, that this would make them larger. So, I don't know. We may remeasure them. I don't want to say we'll just send it, but For all I know, it could just be an inaccurate reading, which I pray is not the issue or the case. But I did some research. I think we're going to go with OEM bearings. We're not going to go with aftermarket bearings. The reason being is they're going to be good for all that I'm going to be asking of this. I haven't really decided kind of what the goal for this is. There really wasn't a goal. It was kind of just to work. So what I think we're going to do, we're going to order, or at least check out a couple rods over here that we have. See if we've got at least 2 in spec. And if not, yeah, I would have to remeasure these just to verify, because my wrench doesn't, or my micrometer doesn't read that low pretty much. So I can't 100% say for sure. Forgot to mention, the way to figure out your rod bearings for a stock assembly, if everything is within spec, you'll see on the side of your rods, you can see there, 0F0, that is a grade 0 rod. And here, you can see I found on my crank it says 212121. That is because you can see the numbers in there. 1 2 1 2 1 2. You actually read it this way: 2 1 2 1 2 1. Those will be your rod bearings. If you want your main bearings grades, up here you can slightly see them. It's 1 1 1. Other one says 2, I believe. So that's how you read your main bearings. I don't think we're going to be messing with them. Yeah, that may. I don't think we're going to be messing with mains. Yeah, that may be a horrible idea since I'm already in here. But we may just order them since we know the grades and whatnot. So there was how I showed you how to check these main numbers. The other way that you, also what you need to use to reference main numbers. Alright, so to figure out your main numbers, you will read these numbers here on the crank. Which you see those couple numbers. Also, what you look at is there is stamping right here, and you check this, and on each main cap there's one. You see there's a 1 over here. There's the top of a 1, another 1, and a 2. You do the same kind of addition there, just as you see over here, in the same sequence, add them together, and that is how you get your main bearing grade. So we've got 4 backup rods over here. Luckily they're all the same grades, so it's a plus. I think we're going to end the video here. We are going to send or order some bearings, at least we're going to order main and rod bearings for the correct grade for this engine. We will also be ordering piston rings for stock application, for stock application. I think we're we're going to get to assembling that hopefully sometime soon. I did just like witness thermal expansion from a first-hand perspective. None of my readings are coming out the same. It's what, 20-30 degrees colder outside. It's 30-40 degrees at most. So that's a first for me, but glad to know that that is a real thing. I can't say it's going to say expand as much as it has shrunk when it gets up to say 50 to 70, which I would think would be a good temperature. If I have to, I'll sit them in the sun or something for a little bit, or in a car, just so that they get some of like the greenhouse effect to get warmed up, and that, or shoot, maybe I'll even take them in my room, let them get acclimated and measure them out. But either or, I know we're going to have a set of rods here. I've got those 4 there. I've got another 4 back here in a box that I pulled out of a motor that's back here. So now we're kind of at the mercy of shipping and weather for our next episode of our Frankenstein VG. We're just going to order our rings, our bearings, and whenever all that stuff comes in, we get some decent weather, we'll move on to our next portion of this video. With that being said, if you guys like what you see here, don't forget to drop a like, comment, and subscribe down below. And stay tuned for our next video. We'll catch you then. Peace.